Many people wondered why Andy Griffith's funeral was arranged so quickly, just 4 hours after he passed away. Usually, it takes days or even weeks to plan a funeral for someone well known, allowing time for family, friends, and fans to say goodbye. In this case, everything happened suddenly and quietly, with very little public notice. This unexpected speed raised questions about what prompted such hurried action. Some believed it was due to health concerns or a desire for privacy by his family, while others suspected there might be more personal or legal reasons behind the decision. Investigations revealed that Griffith's family wanted to honor his wishes for a private, simple farewell without media interference. They also faced logistical challenges, including coordinating the funeral arrangements quickly due to the circumstances of his death. Additionally, Griffith had expressed a preference for a peaceful, understated farewell during his lifetime, which his family aimed to respect. Behind the scenes, arrangements were made with a focus on privacy and simplicity, avoiding the long, drawn-out public mourning process typical of celebrities. This approach reflected Griffith's modest nature and his desire to keep his passing away from the spotlight. By moving rapidly, the family ensured his final wishes were honored while minimizing unnecessary publicity. The decision also avoided prolonged media coverage, allowing his loved ones time to grieve privately. Ultimately, the combination of personal wishes, logistical factors, and the desire for privacy led to the quick burial that surprised many. As more details emerged, the full picture of Griffith's final moments and the decisions made in his name became clearer. This story reveals how personal preferences and respect for a loved one's wishes can shape even the most public of moments. On the quiet morning of July 3, 2012, the world lost a beloved actor and a man who had brought warmth and laughter into the lives of many through his roles on television. Andy Griffith, renowned for his iconic portrayal of Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show and his later work on the series Matlock, passed away peacefully at his longtime home on Roanoke Island in North Carolina. His death was announced later that same day, but what shocked many people was how quickly he was laid to rest after he died. Less than 5 hours after he passed away, Griffith was buried in a small, unmarked grave on his private property. This hurried burial was different from what most fans expected for someone with such a celebrated career. Only close friends and family members attended, and no public notice was given beforehand. The entire process was very quiet, without any funeral procession, ceremony, or public tribute. This abrupt farewell seemed strange because Andy Griffith had become a symbol of kindness and good humor for generations of viewers. The speed and secrecy of his burial left many fans confused and curious about why such a beloved figure was put to rest so privately and so swiftly. Some wondered if there was a special reason, whether the family wanted to protect his privacy in his final moments, or if other circumstances had influenced their decision. The contrast between his fame and the secretive nature of his burial made many people ask questions about his last wishes, but no clear answers were given. Every detail about that day remains a quiet chapter in the life of a man who had touched countless hearts with his gentle humor and relatable characters. Following the death of Andy Griffith, the events that unfolded were unlike what usually happens when a well-known person passes away. Normally, there is a long period of several days or even a week between the time someone dies and when they are laid to rest. This time is used for family members to make arrangements, travel, and prepare for memorial services. For celebrities, this period is often extended further to include media coverage, public memorials, and formal ceremonies that honor the person's life and career. However, in Andy Griffith's case, his interment took place just hours after his death. This swift action surprised many, including fans and even some family members. His daughter, Dixie Griffith, reported that she was not invited to the burial and found out about it afterward, which raised questions about the family's decisions and internal dynamics. Some people wondered if the quick burial was meant to prevent media interference or to protect Griffith's dignity. Others speculated that health issues, legal concerns, or Griffith's own final wishes might have influenced this decision. The choice to avoid a traditional funeral, to have no public memorial, and to keep his grave unmarked reflected a desire for privacy. Despite his widespread popularity and the love many fans had for him, this unusual farewell created a sense of mystery and left a void in how the public and his followers could say goodbye. It prompted many to reflect on how we honor those who have made a mark on our culture, respect their privacy, and interpret what they wanted in their final moments. Because of his rural upbringing and the values instilled in him during his early years, Andy Griffith's life was deeply influenced by the simplicity and humility he learned growing up in Mount Airy, North Carolina. Born on June 1, 1926, during the challenging times of the Great Depression, he experienced poverty firsthand. His family lived in a modest home that lacked electricity and running water, and as a child he slept in dresser drawers that were turned into cribs just to find some comfort and safety. These hardships taught him the importance of thrift, resilience, and humility, lessons that stayed with him throughout his life. Growing up in a small town, he was part of a community where neighbors knew each other's names, and church gatherings formed the core of social life. The respect for honesty, tradition, and strong family bonds became part of his character. These deep-rooted principles shaped not only the characters he played on screen, but also how he chose to live his own life. Even after reaching national fame, Griffith maintained his preference for privacy and simplicity. His decision to have a humble, private burial reflected the same values from his childhood. That life's most meaningful moments are shared quietly with loved ones, not in public displays. Throughout his life, his rural background remained a central part of who he was, guiding his personal and professional choices in ways that honored his roots and the lessons learned during those tough early years. Starting his journey into the performing arts long before he became known on television or in movies, Andy Griffith's early artistic pursuits were heavily influenced by his supportive and hardworking parents, Carl and Geneva Griffith. From a young age, he was introduced to music and performance through church choirs and school plays. His father worked as a carpenter, and his mother managed their modest household, both of them being deeply religious and often attending Baptist church services. It was during these early church gatherings that Andy found his first inspiration for performing. As he grew older, he developed a talent for storytelling, entertaining friends, family, and churchgoers with humor and voice impressions that won him admiration. Recognizing his natural talent, teachers and mentors urged him to seek formal training in the arts. This encouragement led him to attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he majored in music. There, he became a skilled singer and trombonist, further blending his love for music and drama through participation in theatrical productions. His first taste of national recognition did not come from acting in films or television, but from comedy monologues he wrote and performed himself. One notable piece was What It Was Football, a humorous tale narrated from the perspective of a country preacher who accidentally finds himself in a football game. This performance went viral for its time, earning him recordings and making him known as a talented comedian. The success of this work introduced Griffith to a broader audience, who saw him as a relatable and down-to-earth personality. These early artistic roots helped shape his unique style, which combined sincerity and humor, creating an authentic persona that earned him the love of millions. His early pursuits in music, storytelling, and comedy laid the foundation for his later fame, allowing him to connect genuinely with his audience through his entertainment. Following his successful career in acting, Andy Griffith's defining moment arrived in 1960 when he helped create The Andy Griffith Show, a television series that would become one of the most beloved in American history. The show was the idea of Sheldon Leonard, a veteran producer who saw in Griffith the perfect person to play a new kind of TV hero. Unlike the tough or loud characters often seen on television at that time, Griffith's character was calm, kind, steady, and wise. The series was built around the idea of a peaceful small-town sheriff named Andy Taylor, who was dedicated to raising his son with compassion and understanding instead of using force or aggression. Griffith based the character on his own personality, laid back, humorous, and deeply rooted in strong moral values. The setting was a fictional town called Mayberry, which served as a peaceful place of everyday life, offering a gentle alternative to the popular westerns and crime shows of the late 1950s. Griffith's acting included subtle facial expressions and calm voice delivery that showed trustworthiness and wisdom without exaggeration. He made sure the character was soft-spoken and avoided slapstick humor or anything overly loud, keeping the show warm and family-friendly. With a cast that included Don Knotts as Barney Fife, a somewhat awkward deputy, the show blended heartwarming stories with light comedy that everyone could enjoy. Griffith had a lot of control over the series, and chose to maintain a wholesome tone that focused on important values like patience, honesty, humility, and community. As the show grew, it became more than just entertainment. It became a moral guide for viewers, offering lessons about kindness and integrity. The creation of the show was not just a professional achievement for Griffith, but also a reflection of his inner beliefs and the kind of person he was. Moreover, the character of Sheriff Taylor, played masterfully by Andy Griffith, became much more than a fictional figure in television history. His portrayal represented a blueprint for true leadership grounded in kindness, patience, and moral strength. During a time of great social change in America, when cities and communities faced protests, political unrest, and rapid change, Sheriff Taylor's calm demeanor and wise approach offered comfort and guidance. The show created a place where kindness, honesty, and understanding were the norms, making the fictional town of Mayberry a symbol of what many Americans wish their own communities could be. As a role model, Griffith's sheriff taught viewers that strength does not come from harshness or violence, but from compassion and steady leadership. His influence extended beyond entertainment, inspiring parents, teachers, and community leaders to embrace those same values. Even long after the Andy Griffith Show ended, people continue to find lessons in the character's actions and words. Reruns introduced new generations to the peaceful, friendly world of Mayberry, and the character became a timeless reminder that integrity and kindness are powerful tools for leading others. Many public figures looked up to Griffith's sheriff as an ideal example of an authoritative figure who rules with fairness and empathy. Schools and community groups use the show to teach ethical behavior and conflict resolution. The legacy of Sheriff Taylor, created by Griffith's sincere performance, remains deeply ingrained in American culture as a symbol of morality, stability, and nostalgia, reminding people of a simpler, better way to live and lead. As long as stories of kindness, justice, and community endure, the impact of Sheriff Taylor's character will continue to inspire. Despite achieving nationwide stardom and becoming one of the most recognizable faces in American television history, Andy Griffith chose a life of quiet dignity over the trappings of fame. He never fully embraced the stereotypical Hollywood lifestyle or sought the fame that often comes with celebrity. Instead, Griffith found peace and happiness in the simple things that grounded him. He preferred living on his home on Roanoke Island in North Carolina, away from the busy city life of Los Angeles. There, he enjoyed long walks near the shoreline where he could reflect and find calmness. He also valued meaningful conversations with his close friends and spent much time with his family, cherishing those moments more than the spotlight. His spacious property was surrounded by nature, music, and quiet reflection, helping him stay connected to his core values. Griffith's humility was genuine, not just for public appearances, it was part of who he was deep inside. Co-star Ron Howard, who played his son O.P. on the Andy Griffith Show, often spoke of Griffith as a mentor who led by example. Howard described him as calm, patient, and generous with his wisdom. Griffith did not seek too much praise or attention, and stayed true to the values he portrayed on screen. Even when he appeared in interviews or special events later in life, he remained modest and humble, always reminding others that fame was just a side effect of doing meaningful work, not a goal in itself. In many ways, Andy Griffith became the true embodiment of his own principles, showing that true greatness does not come from chasing fame, but from staying authentic to oneself. Because Andy Griffith's talents went far beyond acting, his artistic life was rich and diverse. Long before he became famous on television, he was a trained singer who loved sacred music, folk ballads, and Southern hymns. This love for music stayed with him all his life, and was a big part of his pride. In 1996, he won a Grammy Award for Best Southern, Country, or Bluegrass Gospel Album for his album called I Love to Tell the Story, 25 Timeless Hymns. On this album, Griffith's warm and honest voice brought to life spiritual songs that reflected his childhood roots. His sincere singing was not just about skill, but showed his deep faith and humility, which were important parts of who he was. But Griffith did not stop with singing. He also worked in movies and theater, taking on serious and dramatic roles that proved his wide range as an actor. In the film A Face in the Crowd from 1957, he played a darker character, a manipulative drifter who becomes a media star, showing a different side of his talent from his TV role as Sheriff Taylor. He also appeared in the Heat of the Night and other TV movies that dealt with deep emotional issues. On stage, he played both funny and serious roles, using his voice, timing, and presence to charm audiences. Griffith was never content to stay the same. He always challenged himself to grow and bring honesty to his performances. Through his music, movies, and stage work, he became a true example of a versatile and inspiring entertainer in America. Certainly, in 1972, Andy Griffith took a significant step beyond his role as an actor and singer by founding Griffith Enterprises. This company gave him the power to have more control over the projects he was involved in and allowed him to promote the talents of others working behind the scenes. Griffith saw this move as more than just a business decision. It was a way to influence the entertainment industry from the inside. He believed that true impact came not only from performing or starring in shows, but also from shaping the stories and values that were shared with audiences. His well-known name carried weight in television and music, and with Griffith Enterprises, he was able to produce content that reflected his core beliefs, stories about characters, family life, justice, and meaningful human connections. The company became a platform for projects that might have struggled to find support in a media world, increasingly driven by commercial interests. It also gave him the opportunity to support writers, directors, and actors who shared his dedication to high-quality storytelling instead of just flashy spectacle. By being involved in key decisions such as casting, script reviews, and production meetings, Griffith showed his commitment to not only his own legacy, but to fostering a community of creative professionals. His entrepreneurial efforts were driven by a desire to preserve authenticity and integrity in entertainment, rather than chasing quick profits. Through his business, he helped set a tone for a more thoughtful and values-based approach to making television and movies. His influence extended from the screen into the industry itself, encouraging a higher standard in storytelling and character development. This entrepreneurial spirit made Andy Griffith more than just a performer. He became a curator of stories that mattered, shaping the industry with his vision and dedication. Despite facing numerous serious health challenges late in his life, Andy Griffith showed incredible strength and resilience that reflected his inner character. In 1983, he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare nerve disorder that could have been devastating. The disease left him temporarily paralyzed from the knees down, but he refused to give up. He underwent intensive therapy and worked tirelessly to regain his ability to walk, enduring pain and frustration with patience and determination. Over the years, he also faced high blood pressure and other complications related to aging, which made maintaining his health a constant effort. In 2000, at 74 years old, he had to undergo a quadruple heart bypass surgery, a major operation that tested his resilience. Soon after, he also had hip surgery to preserve his mobility. Despite these setbacks, Griffith never withdrew from public life. He kept working, recording albums, participating in interviews, and appearing in reunion specials and retrospectives, showing he remained active and passionate. He stayed involved in his community, supporting local arts projects and mentoring young talent, always driven by his love for storytelling and music. Throughout all these difficulties, he never asked for sympathy or sought attention for his health issues. Instead, he focused on what he cherished: his craft, connection with others, and his faith. His ability to push through adversity with steady perseverance demonstrated a deep sense of inner peace rooted in his rural upbringing and personal beliefs. Even as his health declined, Andy Griffith continued to be a performer, a mentor, and a quiet source of inspiration. His resilience was simple but powerful, a reflection of his true nature, enduring, humble, and deeply admirable. Despite his fame and success, Andy Griffith's approach to life was guided by a deep sense of humility and a love for simplicity. He believed that true peace came from a modest lifestyle and a strong connection to faith. Griffith decided to be laid to rest in the most private way because he valued privacy and believed that life's most meaningful moments should be kept away from public view. Instead of living in the bright lights and busy world of Los Angeles or among wealthy social circles, he chose the quiet town of Roanoke Island in North Carolina. There, he enjoyed the natural beauty of the coastline, took peaceful walks on the beach, and played music in the comfort of his home. His simple life was not just a choice, but a reflection of his character. He liked to surround himself with close friends and neighbors, finding happiness in genuine relationships rather than fame. His faith was important to him and influenced his morals and the roles he played on screen, often emphasizing kindness, humility, and integrity. Griffith believed that love, grief, joy, and farewell were sacred and personal, not things to be shared with the world. His decision to keep his life quiet and his final resting place private was consistent with his lifelong values of discretion and spiritual grounding. In his last years, he carefully chose a life where peace mattered more than publicity, making sure his final resting place was a true reflection of the man he was, someone who cherished the quiet, sacred moments that life offers. After his passing, Andy Griffith's family and close friends carried out a carefully planned and tightly guarded farewell. They understood his wishes for a private, peaceful goodbye, free from the chaos and media frenzy that often accompanies the deaths of famous people. Even before he died, Griffith made it clear that he did not want his death to attract crowds or media coverage. To honor this, his loved ones worked with local law enforcement to control access to his property. They set up roadblocks and established a temporary no-fly zone over his home, preventing helicopters or press from capturing any images or filming the funeral. This level of security was unprecedented and showed how much he valued his privacy in such a sensitive time. Interestingly, Griffith's plan was so strict that even his adopted daughter Dixie was not allowed to attend the burial, which caused some public concern and debate. However, this was not meant to be unkind or exclusive, but rather a way for Griffith to protect his final moments from becoming a spectacle. He believed that saying goodbye should be a respectful and personal experience, not a show for crowds or media. Because of his careful planning, his final farewell remained quiet and respectful, allowing his loved ones to grieve in peace and dignity. His wish for a private farewell reflected his desire to control how he was remembered and to keep his last moments sacred. The precise execution of his plans demonstrated his strong will to maintain privacy and dignity even in death. His death, therefore, stayed under the radar, avoiding the spectacle so many other celebrities have faced during their passing. His family's efforts showed their respect for his wishes, ensuring his final moments were exactly as he wanted: quiet, protected, and respectful. Despite some public controversy over his choices, the overall goal was clear. Griffith wanted his leave-taking to be his own, remembered as a peaceful and private final goodbye. His careful planning ensured that his last moments remained a reflection of his values, and that his memory would be honored without sensationalism or intrusion. Following his passing, Andy Griffith demonstrated remarkable control over the way his farewell was handled, much like a director carefully managing the final scene of a beloved film. He orchestrated every detail with precision, secrecy, and emotional clarity to ensure that his departure reflected his values and personality. Instead of a grand public spectacle, he chose to keep his funeral intimate and discreet, as if preparing a heartfelt surprise for those closest to him. Griffith selected a serene location for his burial, purposefully choosing only a small group of trusted local friends who had known him personally and shared his life's values. There were no celebrities present, no speeches, and no media coverage on site, demonstrating his desire for privacy. Additionally, his decision to bury him in an unmarked grave was symbolic, emphasizing his belief that true legacy is not measured by monuments or media attention, but by the quiet, meaningful impact one leaves on others throughout life. Griffith clearly rejected fame even in death, by removing any clues from tourists or fans wanting to visit his resting place. No public headstone was placed to be photographed, ensuring that his burial remained a private matter. His funeral was a final act of control, allowing him to shape his story until the very end, protecting his dignity and personal truth. This carefully designed farewell was a reflection of his life, which was dedicated to storytelling through character and message. It was also a stand for humility, peace, and authenticity. Griffith's choice to keep the process simple and personal reinforced his lifelong belief that the most important stories are those told quietly, with sincerity and integrity. By controlling every aspect of his departure, he crafted a lasting narrative that celebrated his values and left no room for ego or distraction. His peaceful exit, done on his own terms, became the most powerful story he ever told, one that underscored the importance of humility and personal truth in life and beyond. On July 3, 2012, around 11:30 a.m., Andy Griffith was laid to rest in a quiet and private burial on Roanoke Island, just hours after he passed away. His chosen final resting place was an unmarked plot of land beside his beloved home, set apart among the trees and away from busy roads. This peaceful spot was carefully selected to give him the privacy he valued, allowing him to say farewell without the glare of cameras or reporters. There were no crowds, no flashing lights, and no grand funeral processions. Instead, only the gentle sounds of the wind and the voices of close friends and family filled the air as they offered their final goodbyes. Griffith's burial was kept a secret until after it happened, and by the time it became known to the public, he was already gone. This unassuming farewell reflected his personal beliefs, modest and authentic, not showy or for public attention. Griffith never cared for fame as an end in itself. He valued the sincere relationships he had with his fans, family, and community over fame or headlines. His grave, though unmarked and simple, symbolized his life's philosophy: That true legacy comes from the kindness and influence we leave in others' hearts, not from marble monuments or televised tributes. His decision to have a modest burial was his way of staying true to himself and his values, reminding the world that meaningful lives are often marked by humility and genuine connections. Although the suddenness of Andy Griffith's burial surprised many people, including his loyal fans and even members of his own family, those who were closest to him eventually understood and supported his decision. His daughter, Dixie Griffith, was notably not present at the funeral, and later shared her feelings of sadness about not being included. For her, as for others, the quick and secretive nature of the burial felt strange at first, almost as if an important part of his life was being closed too quickly, and without proper goodbyes. However, as more details about Griffith's personal reasons became known, a clearer understanding formed. Family members and close friends explained that the quick and private burial was not out of indifference or haste. Instead, it was a careful decision that reflected Andy Griffith's lifelong values. They said he wanted to keep his passing away from the media's eyes, seeking a calm and personal farewell similar to how he had lived his life. What initially seemed like an exclusion was ultimately recognized as a final act of his independence and self-control, characteristic of a man who always lived according to his own principles. Although his family mourned the lack of a more traditional goodbye, they found comfort in knowing that his last wishes had been respected with kindness and attention. Over time, the modesty of his burial became a point of pride among his loved ones, symbolizing Andy Griffith's quiet strength and his consistent desire to avoid attention, even at the end. His decision to keep things simple reflected who he truly was, a man who valued privacy, dignity, and living life on his own terms. Furthermore, for many years, Andy Griffith appeared to be the perfect embodiment of goodness and kindness, especially in his role as Sheriff Andy Taylor on the television show Mayberry. Viewers saw him as a man who was wise, gentle, and always ready to listen, making him a trusted figure in American households. However, behind this cheerful exterior, Griffith was a deeply complex person. Over time, stories from friends, colleagues, and interviews revealed that he was not always the calm and steady man he played on screen. He could be intense and moody, and sometimes he had trouble controlling his emotions. He struggled with personal issues, including a long fight against alcoholism, which caused tension in his relationships and affected his mood and outlook on life. His marriages, especially the first two, were often tense and distant, showing that his personal life was not always in harmony with his public image of stability and warmth. Despite these struggles, Griffith's friends described him as a very intelligent and emotionally aware person, but also someone who had a quick temper when things did not go right. He set very high standards for himself and those around him, which sometimes led to difficult moments or conflicts. These revelations about his life did not diminish his reputation, but instead made him more human and relatable. It became clear that behind the charming acting and moral clarity was a man who faced his flaws just as everyone does, always trying to improve himself. This mixture of kindness and personal complexity only made him more respected, as people understood that no one is perfect, and true strength lies in accepting one's struggles while continuing the effort to grow. Although Andy Griffith is often remembered as a kind and gentle actor, Daniel Diviz's biography sheds new light on his inner struggles. The book reveals episodes of anger and emotional volatility that many fans had not known before. It describes moments when Griffith, overwhelmed by stress or frustration, lost control physically, sometimes punching walls or breaking windows. These incidents were not signs of a violent man, but reflected deep emotional burdens he carried inside. His difficult childhood played a part, as he grew up in poverty, often feeling lonely and lacking emotional warmth. These early struggles stayed with him, and may have contributed to his emotional reactions later in life. The pressures of fame added to his internal stress. During the filming of The Andy Griffith Show, Griffith was a perfectionist who demanded a high standard from himself and others. He carefully controlled the tone, performance, and script, which could create a lot of tension. When things didn't go perfectly, he sometimes reacted with anger, but these moments were often followed by feelings of remorse and reflection. This pattern shows that Griffith was aware of his volatility and deeply felt his emotions. His outbursts and subsequent regret demonstrate that he was a man who loved passionately and cared intensely, but sometimes struggled to contain his feelings. These revelations helped to paint a fuller picture of Griffith, showing that behind his comforting television persona was a person with vulnerabilities His honesty about these emotional struggles made him more relatable to many people, as it revealed that even those who seem strongest can face their own storms. Instead of diminishing his image, these insights remind us that everyone has inner battles, even those who bring comfort and joy to others. Griffith's life story, including his moments of anger and vulnerability, underscores that emotional depth and human complexity can coexist with fame and admiration. Hearing about his internal challenges allows fans and observers to see him as a real person, someone who experienced hardship but continued to work through it with the same quiet strength he showed on screen. When news of Andy Griffith's death became public, the outpouring of tributes was immediate, emotional, and far-reaching. From his former co-stars to devoted fans across many generations, millions of people took time to remember the man who had brought so much warmth, humor, and wisdom into their lives. Ron Howard, who had shared the screen with Griffith as a child, issued a heartfelt statement praising him not just as an actor, but as a mentor and a father figure. He spoke about Andy's generosity, patience on set, and the quiet encouragement that helped shape Howard's own career in the entertainment world. Don Knotts' daughter, Karen, also reflected on the deep friendship between her father and Griffith, describing it as a rare and enduring bond that lasted long after their television show ended. Across the country, fans lit candles, wrote heartfelt tributes, and posted memories on forums and social media, sharing how the Andy Griffith Show had brought peace and comfort into their homes during turbulent times. Even political leaders acknowledged his lasting impact, mentioning his portrayal of Sheriff Taylor as a symbol of decency and core American values. Despite the revelations of personal struggles in Griffith's life, the love and respect people felt for him never diminished. His flaws only made his achievements seem more genuine and earned. The widespread mourning showed how deeply he had touched people's hearts, not through spectacle or controversy, but through a quiet, lasting influence. His work had shaped ideals, comforted families, and taught future generations the importance of living with kindness, humor, and moral clarity. In passing, as in life, Andy Griffith reminded the world that true greatness is found not in perfection but in sincerity. Certainly, from the moment Andy Griffith stepped into the world of entertainment, he left an indelible mark on American culture that still echoes today with almost mythic resonance. His influence goes far beyond the television screens where his most famous characters first appeared, becoming timeless symbols of honesty, wisdom, and compassion. Sheriff Andy Taylor, with his gentle voice, patient demeanor, and unwavering sense of fairness, represented a form of leadership that was rooted in decency and empathy. He was not just a lawman, but a caring person who listened and understood, embodying qualities of true community service. On the other hand, his role as defense attorney Ben Matlock showcased a different kind of hero, one characterized by Southern charm, sharp intellect, and an unstoppable drive for justice. Matlock's character brought a fresh perspective to legal dramas, emphasizing that kindness and moral strength should stand alongside intelligence and dedication. Decades after their original broadcasts, both shows continue to be shown in syndication, reaching new viewers and generations. Their enduring popularity is fueled by the universal values they promote: respect, family, honesty, and moral clarity, especially in today's often complicated world. Whether it is a child discovering Mayberry for the first time, or an older person revisiting the courtroom victories of Matlock, Griffith's performances remain powerful and meaningful. He created characters that felt real and relatable, as if they could live in the houses next door. These roles were more than just entertainment. They served as examples of how to live with kindness, humor, and humility. In a time when cynicism can be overwhelming, Griffith's legacy proves that good character and compassion never go out of style. His influence continues to grow, inspiring and comforting audiences, and reminding everyone that integrity and goodness are timeless values. His legacy is not just a relic of the past, but a vibrant, living part of American culture that still teaches us how to be better each day. Because Andy Griffith preferred to be buried privately, his physical resting place remains personal and quiet, but his legacy is still preserved and celebrated in many meaningful ways that honor his life's work. One of the most significant tributes is the Andy Griffith Museum located in Mount Airy, North Carolina, his hometown. This museum serves as both a tribute and a lively reminder of his contributions to entertainment and culture. It acts as a time capsule, filled with memorabilia from his long career, allowing visitors to step back in time and see his journey from a small-town boy to a beloved actor on television. Inside, people can explore carefully curated exhibits that include original scripts from his shows, vintage costumes he wore, rare photographs capturing special moments, and personal items from Griffith's private collection. The museum not only celebrates his solo career, but also honors The Andy Griffith Show, a television classic that brought the fictional town of Mayberry to life and gained fans around the world. Visitors can learn about the cast of characters, see behind-the-scenes stories, and understand how Griffith's work reflected values of kindness, community, and simplicity. The museum is a lively space where fans of all ages can connect with Griffith's work and appreciate the lessons he shared through his performances. It also plays a role in the community by hosting special events, lectures, and reenactments that keep Griffith's spirit alive and well. Mount Airy itself embraces Griffith's lasting influence, with festivals and attractions that celebrate his storytelling and the charm of Mayberry. In this way, his cultural impact grows beyond television screens and innermost memories, living on through shared stories, laughter, and the ongoing appreciation of his work. Griffith's influence lies not only in physical memorials, but also within the hearts of those who continue to cherish his spirit and the lessons he taught through his craft. Because he believed that true respect for his life and career did not come from grand memorials or elaborate tombs, Andy Griffith chose a very different path after his passing. Instead of being buried in a marked grave or a famous cemetery, he decided to rest in an unmarked grave on private land far from the public view. This choice was deliberate and meaningful for him. He wanted to avoid creating a place where tourists, fans, or visitors could come just to take selfies or leave souvenirs, turning his final resting place into a spectacle rather than a private moment of peace. Griffith saw death as a return to quiet and serenity, not as a continuation of his fame. He understood that his work, his characters, his music, and his message had already ensured his place in history. A headstone or monument wouldn't have added to his legacy or reflected the values he lived by, which emphasized humility and authenticity. Many of his fans came to see his final decision as a respectful act, honoring his wish to keep his retirement and death private. His choice was consistent with the quiet, genuine nature of his roles and what he believed in. Rather than seeking admiration in death, he wanted his life and memory to be valued for their real human qualities. This act of rejecting a celebrity tomb also showed how he viewed life and death: peaceful, private, and true to himself. His legacy continues without a stone marker, carried instead by the memories of his work and the respect of those who knew him. His final act of privacy was a testament to the humility and sincerity he exhibited throughout his life. Because Andy Griffith chose a private burial, he demonstrated a deep understanding of how death affects those left behind. This decision was not just about personal preference, but also served to protect his family and friends from unnecessary stress. By avoiding a public memorial or a marked grave, Griffith prevented the media and fans from creating a spectacle out of his passing. This choice allowed his loved ones to grieve quietly and privately, without the glare of cameras or the burden of public curiosity. His property on Roanoke Island, filled with trees, water, and peaceful surroundings, became his final resting place, offering a calm environment where loved ones could reflect and remember him in peace. This secluded setting meant that those close to Griffith could honor his memory without external interruptions or expectations. It also helped shield his legacy from undue scrutiny, ensuring that his death did not become a public event, but remained a private moment for those who knew him best. His unmarked grave became a symbol of humility and serenity, serving as an invisible barrier that protected the emotional space of his family. It showed that even in death, one can maintain control, dignity, and grace. His choice to keep his burial private set an example for others in the public eye, illustrating that living and dying with respect for personal boundaries is possible. For his family, this act was a gift of privacy, allowing them to hold on to their love and grief without intrusion or disturbance. It became a powerful reminder that personal dignity and emotional well-being can be preserved through simple, thoughtful actions, even in the face of public attention. Certainly. Here is the detailed text based on the given summary. Andy Griffith's final resting place remains intentionally inaccessible to the public, a decision that reflects not only his deeply personal values, but also presents a stark contrast to the way many other celebrities are memorialized today. In current culture, it has become common for the graves of famous individuals to turn into sites of pilgrimage, media attention, and symbolic tribute. Places like Elvis Presley's grave at Graceland or Jim Morrison's tomb in Paris's Père Lachaise Cemetery have become popular destinations visited by thousands each year, often serving as symbols of fame and cultural influence. These sites are often crowded, commercialized, and treated almost as shrines, where fans leave flowers and memorabilia in honor of their idols. However, Andy Griffith chose a different path. His final resting place is on his private property in Roanoke Island, and remains unmarked and invisible to the public. It is kept off GPS and free from crowds and commercial interest, reflecting his personal wishes about how he wanted to be remembered. For Griffith, remembrance wasn't about physical symbols like headstones or plaques, but rather about the enduring impact of his work. He preferred fans to revisit The Andy Griffith Show, listen to his gospel recordings, or watch episodes of Matlock in quiet moments of reflection. His legacy is preserved through shared values of kindness, humor, and integrity, not through spectacle or public displays. By making his burial private, Griffith shifted the focus away from the end of his life and toward the significance of his contributions. This subtle choice was a final message from a man who believed in humility, peace, and the importance of keeping the most sacred parts of life, especially the end, free from distraction or performance. This approach to remembrance highlights his desire for a deeper, more meaningful connection with those who continue to honor him through his work and the lessons he shared. Unlike many actors who openly seek fame and public attention, Andy Griffith's life exemplifies a clear duality that offers a fascinating insight into the mind of a man with a complex nature. While he was adored by millions for his warm, steady presence on screen, he remained a private individual who carefully guarded his inner world. On TV, Griffith portrayed characters that exuded calm wisdom and moral clarity, such as Sheriff Andy Taylor, who was seen as a pillar of trust and goodness in Mayberry. His performances were filled with humor, kindness, and a sense of justice that made viewers feel comforted and safe. Similarly, as Ben Matlock, he continued to appear as a figure of integrity and steadiness in the courtroom. This image of an emotionally balanced and approachable man was just the surface. Off the camera, Griffith was a person who valued solitude and cherished his privacy. He was not the type to crave publicity or seek interviews, instead choosing to keep his personal life shielded from the public eye. He understood that fame brought with it many risks, including losing a piece of oneself or feeling pressure to always behave a certain way. Griffith's discipline allowed him to maintain emotional restraint and keep his most personal thoughts and feelings hidden, even at the height of his popularity. He was a man who gave his best efforts to storytelling and entertaining millions, yet he reserved his deepest emotions for his family, true friends, and the quiet comfort of his North Carolina home. This dual existence was not a contradiction, but a conscious choice. Griffith believed that a person's soul should remain private and protected, even if their public persona is exposed for all to see. His career was a display of talent and character for the world, but his true self stayed behind closed doors. This careful balance helped him stay mentally grounded and maintain his integrity over the years. His life offers a rare lesson that it is possible to dedicate yourself fully to your craft, bring joy to others, and still keep your most personal self out of the limelight. Because even in the world of animation and symbolic storytelling, the image of Andy Griffith continues to resonate deeply with audiences. Unlike caricatures or exaggerated figures, his animated representation is a warm and grounding presence that evokes feelings of comfort, kindness, and clarity in a world often filled with chaos. Animated tributes and satirical nods to the Andy Griffith Show have appeared in different formats, including adult comedies and children's cartoons. These references are always made with a sense of reverence for the values his characters stood for, celebrating the simplicity and decency that Griffith's persona represented. Often, you'll see characters whistling the show's iconic theme song or referencing the sleepy, idealized town of Mayberry in cartoons, which has become shorthand for moral nostalgia and longing for simpler times. His screen persona has transformed into a symbol of decency, embodying the type of wise, fatherly guidance that crosses generations. This symbolic use of Griffith stands in clear contrast to animated portrayals of darker historical figures like Adolf Hitler, who are depicted in grotesque or disturbing ways to highlight humanity's destructive instincts. The stark difference between these representations, the serenity and virtue associated with Griffith, and the chaos linked to evil figures, illustrates how society uses animation and art to create easily recognizable emotional anchors. Griffith's animated presence is more than nostalgia. It becomes a visual shorthand for goodness itself. In an era marked by rapid change and moral ambiguity, his symbolic image and animation serves as a gentle reminder of the values many hope to preserve and the kind of world many continue to long for. Because cartoons and animation have long served as a mirror of society's values, they often use simplified and exaggerated images to reflect both comfort and critique. In this context, the image of Andy Griffith, known for his calm, moral, and fatherly presence, acts as a kind of cultural balm. His characters and the values they uphold serve to remind people of the importance of decency, reason, and human connection in an often chaotic world. When his gentle wisdom is used in animated satire or humorous parodies, it acts as a grounding force that helps stabilize more chaotic or complex storylines. This portrayal of Griffith provides a stark contrast to darker historical figures, such as Hitler, Stalin, or modern dictators, whose caricatures represent evil and chaos. These contrasting depictions are not just meant to entertain, but also to reflect the cultural psyche's need to separate good from evil, morality from corruption, and clarity from confusion. Through this lens, Griffith's image symbolizes a collective longing to remember what dignity looks like, especially during darker times in human history. His presence in animation becomes more than a simple homage. It turns into a form of commentary on society's values. It highlights how media help us process difficult ideas, such as how society venerates kindness and despises tyranny. Nostalgia for Griffith's character can soothe, but also risk oversimplifying complex issues. Nevertheless, his image in animation reminds us of the ethical principles that once guided mainstream entertainment. It underscores how media can serve as a moral compass, helping us navigate historical memories and understand the past to better interpret the present. His legacy, through the comforting lens of animation, acts as both a refuge and a moral yardstick. It encourages reflection and keeps alive the ideals of decency and humanity amidst turbulent times. Certainly, Andy Griffith, a beloved actor known for his warm presence and iconic roles, made a unique choice regarding his final resting place that has sparked much discussion among fans and the public alike. Unlike many celebrities whose graves become popular pilgrimage sites, such as Elvis Presley at Graceland or Marilyn Monroe in Los Angeles, Griffith chose not to have a public memorial or an elaborate headstone. Instead, he was laid to rest in an unmarked, private grave, a decision that reflected his deep desire for privacy and simplicity even in death. This choice showed how much he valued his personal life and sought to protect his loved ones from the often intrusive nature of fame. For fans, visiting the grave of a star often becomes a meaningful ritual, a way to feel close and pay tribute, often finding comfort in the physical space where their idol is laid to rest. Grave sites like those of Elvis Presley or Marilyn Monroe have turned into almost sacred places where memories are kept alive and personal connections are celebrated. However, Andy Griffith's approach shifted this perspective dramatically. By avoiding a publicly accessible site, he encouraged fans to remember him through the work he did, the values he upheld, and the peaceful moments he found in nature and solitude. His decision highlighted a different way of honoring a cultural icon, one that placed the importance on lifelong integrity rather than spectacle. This act also prompted important conversations about the rights of families to grieve privately and the limits of public mourning. Griffith's choice serves as a reminder that even in death, one can preserve dignity and authenticity by respecting personal wishes. It emphasizes that true legacy stems from the stories, laughter, and kindness shared during life, not just from monuments or memorials. In refusing to let fame turn his burial into a public spectacle, Andy Griffith set a powerful example of respect, humility, and the importance of personal peace. His decision continues to inspire reflection on how we remember the icons of our culture and what truly matters as we carry their memories forward. Since Andy Griffith passed away, his influence continues to be felt across many areas of life. Even though there is no public tombstone to mark his resting place, his legacy remains very much alive. His values of honesty, kindness, patience, and quiet strength have not faded with time. Instead, they ripple through modern culture, reaching new generations of viewers each year. His television show, The Andy Griffith Show, is still broadcast on many channels, and people worldwide still enjoy watching it. The show gives a glimpse into a simple, kind-hearted world, showing how empathy, humor, and moral integrity can create a meaningful life. There is also the Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy, North Carolina, which makes sure his legacy is carefully preserved. Visitors can see exhibits that celebrate his work and his contributions to American storytelling. The museum doesn't treat his legacy as something from the past, but as something that still has meaning today. Every time people watch an episode or visit the museum, they are paying tribute to a man who believed in the power of simple values and good character. Teachers, parents, and community leaders often refer to lessons from Mayberry, the fictional town in his show. These lessons teach fairness, patience, and understanding, values that remain relevant despite changes in the world around us. Even though the stories happen in a small town, their lessons touch on universal human truths that stay true over time. Griffith's talent for showing the complexities of life in a gentle way makes his work feel forever important. In a world that often moves quickly and is filled with noise, his legacy reminds us to slow down, listen carefully, and lead with the heart. His influence is everywhere, inspiring both old and new audiences to value kindness and integrity in everyday life. Firstly, Andy Griffith's shows continue to serve as shining examples of moral clarity in a world that often feels confusing and fragmented. His characters never claimed to be perfect, but they always aimed to do what was right, not because it was easy or popular, but because it was good. Sheriff Andy Taylor, in particular, exemplified this ethic through his everyday actions and words. He taught his son O.P. the value of telling the truth, showing that honesty builds trust and respect. He also emphasized the importance of patience, demonstrating that understanding and calmness can resolve many problems. Additionally, Griffith's characters reflected the strength found in gentleness, showing that kindness and compassion are powerful qualities. These lessons weren't just for children. They resonated deeply with adults who saw in him the kind of leader the world desperately needs: calm, consistent, and caring. Episodes of the Andy Griffith Show often revolved around simple misunderstandings, yet behind these stories lay profound insights into human behavior and morality. Whether confronting prejudice, fear, dishonesty, or pride, the show always reinforced that character mattered more than social status, and that kindness was timeless. This unwavering moral compass helped shape how an entire generation viewed right and wrong. As those same generations pass their values to others, Griffith stories become a vital part of a greater cultural inheritance. They remind us that clarity, goodness, and laughter still have a meaningful place in our lives and communities. After his passing in 2012, the world felt the loss of Andy Griffith deeply, as if a familiar friend or a wise family member had gone. For many, Griffith was more than just an actor. He was a symbol of integrity, kindness, and good judgment. His career, which lasted over 50 years, was built on storytelling that warmed hearts and touched souls. Unlike many entertainers who relied on loud actions or sensational drama, Griffith showed a different kind of strength, one rooted in humility and understanding. His character, Sheriff Andy Taylor, and the television show The Andy Griffith Show became a beloved hero because he listened more than he shouted, led by example, and cared for his community with quiet but steady wisdom. His departure marked the end of an era that valued lessons over spectacle. His shows did more than entertain, they taught. They taught that being gentle, honest, and caring could shape a better world. His stories made viewers feel seen and valued, reminding them that simple acts of kindness matter. Griffith's influence did not fade with his death. Instead, his legacy continued through reruns, stories, and the many lives he touched. The silence that followed his passing echoed loudly, because it reflected the vast absence of his moral voice. For generations, he was not just an actor, but a moral compass, a cultural hero who showed how storytelling could make a difference. His life and work gave people a blueprint that urged us all to live with integrity, lead with kindness, and love quietly from the heart. He remains in the memories of those who grew up watching him, a gentle reminder that true greatness lies in humility, compassion, and the quiet strength of goodness. From the moment Andy Griffith stepped into the world of entertainment, he was known for his gentle presence, warm voice, and unassuming charm. Throughout his career, he became a beloved actor, singer, and storyteller, capturing audiences with his authenticity and moral clarity. Despite his fame, Griffith remained grounded, choosing roles that reflected dignity, kindness, and moral strength. As he aged, his influence extended beyond the screen, influencing generations with his humble personality and heartfelt performances. When the time came for his farewell, it was unlike that of most celebrities. He did not want headlines, grand eulogies, or crowds of mourners to gather in his memory. Instead, he opted for a quiet and private burial, free from spectacle or fanfare. This choice carried a powerful message: life, lived with quiet purpose and sincerity, communicates more than loud words or public applause. His passing was a gentle whisper, yet it resonated deeply with those who appreciated his example. Griffith's decision to depart without elaborate memorials or final performances was not a retreat from fame, but a statement of control and peace. It reflected his belief that true legacy is built on how honestly one lives, not how loudly one leaves. Over the years, he built a legacy rooted in trust, moral clarity, and genuine connection. His silence in his final moments underscored his desire to remain true to himself and his values. The simplicity of his goodbye highlighted his integrity, showing that true strength lies in humility and authenticity. His peaceful departure left a meaningful imprint, reminding everyone that the measure of a life is found in its quiet grace and the honest words spoken along the way. Griffith's farewell was a testament to a life well lived, a gentle reminder that sometimes the most powerful messages are conveyed without noise or applause. Certainly, although Andy Griffith is no longer with us, his influence remains strong through the laughter, lessons, and comfort his work continues to bring to people of all ages. Many viewers still watch The Andy Griffith Show, finding comfort in its gentle pace and timeless stories. It is a show that has a special place in the hearts of families who share episodes with children, not just for fun, but as a way to teach kindness, empathy, and personal responsibility. Schools, churches, and community centers often use clips from the show and stories about its characters to help explain important ethical lessons, making Griffith's work a part of moral education. Many legal dramas today draw inspiration from Matlock, a show that Griffith starred in. Copying its structure and values, they try to imitate his skill in blending wit, wisdom, and fairness in a way that makes people think and feel understood. Griffith's legacy is more than just reruns on television. It is woven into the cultural fabric. From Mayberry's cozy porch to the courtroom, where his character fights for justice, the characters he played gave people hope and showed that good character and moral strength can shine through even in entertainment. His influence goes beyond genres and time periods. He set a high standard for what television could accomplish, not just as a medium for amusement but as a tool for building character and encouraging moral discussions. His work helped shape a generation's view of right and wrong, and it still influences those who come after. When greatness is rooted in goodness, it does not fade with time. Instead, it multiplies, leaving a lasting mark on society. Griffith's legacy proves that kindness, fairness, and moral integrity are timeless virtues that continue to inspire. Because of the sudden nature of Andy Griffith's passing, his family felt it was important to respect his wish for privacy and simplicity during his final moments. They knew he valued a quiet, dignified farewell away from the public eye, and they wanted to honor that desire. In addition, his death happened unexpectedly, which meant there was little time to prepare a traditional funeral that often takes days or weeks to arrange. The family faced logistical challenges, such as coordinating the funeral and burial quickly, while ensuring everything was done respectfully. They chose to keep the arrangements private, avoiding media attention, and keeping the focus on honoring Griffith's memory in a manner he would have approved of. This swift action also helped the family avoid the lengthy process of public mourning, allowing them to grieve alone and maintain his peaceful legacy. The decision reflected Griffith's own attitudes about public life and his preference for a modest, understated farewell. Ultimately, the rapid burial was a combination of respecting his personal wishes, handling practical logistics, and ensuring a private, respectful goodbye, surprising many, but showing how deep love and respect can guide important decisions during difficult times.